Hello again. Welcome back to our library lessons. Today we're doing another botany lesson. Remember, botany is the study of plants, and a botanist is someone or a scientist who studies those plants. I am showing you some examples of moss. Today we are learning about moss. In fact, there's a rock out right there. It has moss and lichen on it. They are two separate organisms. Moss is a plant. They are a small seedless plant. Here's a picture of, there's my shed. These are some examples that I pulled together. Moss, they are small seedless plants that live in shady, moist places. I bet you've seen it a lot of different places. They don't have seeds. They don't put out flowers like we're used to. They spread by spores. It's tiny, tiny microscopic parts that you can't see with our eyes. So this is moss. You see that it is green. That tells us it has chlorophyll. The chlorophyll is part of their making of food. Moss are special plants. They're very simple plants. They are called bryophytes. And this is how we spell it. Oops, where we are. Where are we? There we are. Bryophytes. Moss are bryophytes. Those are plants that lack the plant parts that transport water from roots to the stems and leaves. That's what regular plants have, but these are simple plants only through their leaves. And they gain their food, like all plants, with photosynthesis. It's that chlorophyll involved in the photosynthesis. So they need carbon dioxide, which is what humans breathe out. We exhale carbon dioxide. It has 2 oxygen molecules. And sunlight. They change that into sugar, which plants use for food. Those are those parts. Do you know there are more than 10,000 species, and species just means types, of moss throughout the world? And we can see a whole bunch here. 10,000. Isn't that amazing? That is amazing. All the different kinds. You can see that they grow on rocks and live trees and dead ones. Decaying trees. These are some decaying trees and some wood. They don't have roots. Let me show you in my little tray here. They don't have roots. They have little hairy things. Whoops. See, no roots. They have these little hairy, they're called hair-like structures. You can see them right there in the brown part. And they help each individual plant cling to the other. This is, while you might think this is one plant, this is thousands and thousands of them, all together like a little family, a colony. Yep. These are soft. They are very soft. Little things. Let me look underneath again. Look at that. There's a little dirt. Did you know moss is very unique in that it is a producer and a decomposer? Most plants are producers. They produce things like oxygen and food. But these are decomposers as well. They break down wood and stone into dirt. And we know that soil is important for growing plants. Here's some moss right here, right next to my foot. In fact, there's a more complex plant, looks like a dandelion, growing among the simple plant of this moss. Yep, they aren't fungi, so they're not a mushroom. And we know that because they have chlorophyll. Mushrooms don't have chlorophyll. They're not green. So, I wanted to share with you some different kinds of moss right here. I had a hard time identifying the different types of moss. They all have different names. And it was really hard because they all look so similar. If you look, there are combinations. There might be two different kinds of moss here, or it might be the same moss and just has two different, but I think these are two different kinds. Do you see the tiny little leaves in there? And then there's these fern-like things. These aren't ferns. They're actually moss. Look at that. Look at that. In fact, this could be called fern moss because it has all these little fern-like structures. This one that I showed you before, and its friends right here, I took off of some rocks. They're called cushion moss. Sometimes they're called pin cushion moss. If you know someone who sews, they might have a pin cushion to hold their pins. This is cushion moss. See how it looks like a bump? Oops. It's kind of like a bump. Yeah. These ones I took off the ground. This one looks like a whole bunch of trees. Oh, it's coming apart. Look at that. They're all like individual trees. It's really interesting. It might be called broom fork moss. We're not sure. This one looks even more like trees. Let me get it up for you. Look at that. That's moss. I wanted to show you. This one here has the little fruiting bodies that, let me see if I can find a good spot to put it. Oops. These little fruiting bodies. See this? This is how it makes more of itself. This little end will swell up and put out spores. It's called a little fruiting body. Yep. And then somewhere it will make a landfall in a good spot. I found another moss here. I didn't want to pull it up because it's too pretty. Can you see it? Right here. This one, it looks like a star. I don't have very much of it, so I didn't want to bother it. Just wanted to share it with you. This tiny little moss. So maybe when you are out and about, you'll see moss growing on a foundation of a building, or on a rock, or some wood, or a tree, or a stump, just like that. Moss are not bothersome. They are not bad. You don't need to pull them up or remove them. They're doing their job. And that's how we all live together. We all do the parts that we're meant to do. And there you go. And that is moss. Have fun finding some moss on your own. See you next time.